Have you ever walked into a room and felt someone's presence before they even spoke? Not because they were loud, not because they were trying to be noticed, but because something about them made everything slow down. Let me ask you this. Why is it that some people don't need attention, yet attention follows them anyway? What is that invisible force that makes others lean in, feel calmer, and instinctively respect them? We've all met someone like this. They don't try to impress. They don't dominate conversations. They don't show off or seek approval. Yet somehow, their presence alone feels grounding. They don't chase the spotlight because they don't need it. They stand quietly, confidently, almost effortlessly magnetic. And that magnetism doesn't come from their appearance, their clothes, or their status. It comes from something far deeper. Inner energy. The Stoics called this inner strength, a kind of silent authority that can't be faked, borrowed, or forced. In a world where everyone is desperately trying to stand out, the paradox is simple. The less you try, the more magnetic you become. True attraction doesn't come from what you make others see. It comes from how they feel in your presence. People are not drawn to you because you are more beautiful, more impressive, or more accomplished. They are drawn to you because with you, they feel calmer, safer, more at ease. And peace in a chaotic world is incredibly rare. The Stoics understood this deeply. They believed that lasting attraction has nothing to do with appearance and everything to do with self-mastery. Marcus Aurelius once wrote that a calm mind is the foundation of inner beauty. Think about that for a moment. If you can remain composed while others panic, steady while others react, kind while others grow bitter, you emit an energy that naturally attracts trust and respect. This kind of magnetism doesn't shout for attention. It quietly pulls people in. True magnetism is revealed not in how others perceive you, but in how you respond to life. When you stay calm in the face of criticism, when you remain kind in the presence of indifference, when you hold your ground even while being misunderstood, that kind of beauty does not fade with time. It cannot be taken away. It only deepens. And today, we're going to explore 6 timeless Stoic habits that don't make you magnetic because you're trying to be, but because you've become someone grounded, peaceful, and strong within. Someone who doesn't perform for approval, but lives with quiet confidence. Someone others seek not for excitement, but for peace. The first habit begins with something deceptively simple, yet profoundly rare in the modern world. Truly listening. In an age where everyone wants to talk, to share opinions, to be heard, the ability to truly listen has become uncommon, and rarity is magnetic. Most people listen only to reply. While someone is speaking, the mind is already rehearsing its response, forming judgments, preparing to interrupt. But the Stoics believed that only a still mind can hear the truth behind words. Epictetus famously said, "We have 2 ears in 1 mouth, so that we may listen more than we speak." This was not about silence for silence's sake. It was about presence. True listening is not just an act of the ears, it is the presence of the mind. When you fully listen, without interrupting, without checking your phone, without rushing to give advice, you offer something priceless, the feeling of being seen and understood. Think back to a time when someone truly listened to you. They didn't rush you. They didn't correct you. They simply stayed present. How did that make you feel? Safe, valued, open. This is why true listeners are magnetic. They make others feel important without saying much at all. The Stoics viewed silence as strength, not weakness. When you choose to listen, you demonstrate self-control. You show that you don't need to dominate the conversation to feel secure. You let your ego step aside, and in doing so, you radiate calm confidence. In a world where people compete to be the loudest, the one who listens becomes unforgettable. They don't need to impress, because their presence alone already does. When you listen deeply, you silently tell someone you matter, your story matters, and that is something every human heart longs for. To cultivate this habit, begin by being fully present in every interaction. When someone speaks, resist the urge to prepare your response. Let go of judgment. Simply observe. Notice their tone, their expressions, the emotion beneath their words. Listen not to respond, but to understand. And just as importantly, learn to listen to yourself. Spend quiet moments observing your own thoughts, fears, and hopes. When you learn to hear yourself clearly, you naturally become more compassionate towards others. True magnetism doesn't come from clever words or perfect expressions. It comes from the feeling you leave behind. A great listener makes people feel seen. And in this world, that feeling is more powerful than any compliment. When your silence becomes a safe space, people don't just like you, they seek you out. And that is the deepest form of magnetism there is. If listening makes people feel seen, then emotional control makes people feel safe. Let me ask you something. Have you noticed how rare calm has become? How quickly people react, explode, argue, defend, or take things personally? In a world where emotions rule most decisions, the person who remains composed immediately stands apart. Not because they suppress emotion, but because they master it. The Stoics believed that the highest form of power is not control over others, but control over yourself. And nothing makes you more magnetic than emotional stability. Think about it. When someone stays calm while others are triggered, we instinctively trust them. We lean toward their energy because it feels solid, grounded, unshakable. Marcus Aurelius wrote that you should be like a rock against which the waves keep crashing, yet it stands firm. That image alone explains why emotional control is so attractive. A rock doesn't fight the waves, it doesn't react, it simply remains what it is: strong, present, unmoved. Most people believe attraction comes from excitement, intensity, or drama, but drama exhausts. Intensity burns out. Emotional chaos repels over time. What draws people in deeply and keeps them there is consistency. The Stoics understood that when you respond to life with balance instead of impulse, you become someone others can rely on, someone who doesn't create storms, but calms them. Emotional control does not mean you feel nothing. It means you don't let feelings control your actions. You still experience anger, sadness, disappointment, but you don't become them. You observe them. You allow them to pass without giving them authority over your behavior. Epictetus taught that it's not events themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about them. Once you realize that, you stop handing your peace to circumstances you cannot control. This is where true magnetism forms. When someone insults you and you don't rush to defend your ego, when you're ignored and you don't beg for attention, when plans fall apart and you adapt instead of complain. People notice this. They may not comment on it, but they feel it, and feeling calm around someone is addictive in the best way. Ask yourself, when was the last time you felt truly safe around someone? Not because they promised anything, but because their presence was steady, predictable, warm without being needy, strong without being aggressive. That's stoic emotional control in action. It sends a powerful message without words. Nothing outside of me controls me. To build this habit, begin by creating space between emotion and response. When you feel triggered, pause, take a breath. Observe what's happening inside you without acting on it immediately. This pause is where freedom lives. Most people don't pause, they react, and that's why they remain predictable, easy to manipulate, easy to ignore. When you pause, you reclaim power. Another key aspect is accepting what you cannot control. The Stoics divided life into two categories: what is within your control and what is not. Your thoughts, actions, and reactions belong to you.
Other people's opinions, behavior, and emotions do not. The moment you stop trying to control what was never yours, your energy becomes lighter, calmer, and far more attractive. Desperation disappears, tension fades, presence deepens. There is something deeply comforting about someone who does not need constant reassurance, validation, or emotional reactions from others. They don't guilt trip, they don't pressure, they don't chase. They allow things to unfold, and ironically, that freedom is what pulls people closer. The Stoics believed that the person who governs their inner world becomes naturally influential in the outer one. When people see that you don't collapse under pressure, don't lash out under stress, and don't crumble under rejection, they begin to respect you, even if they don't fully understand why. Respect is a quiet form of attraction. It grows slowly, but it lasts. And here's the truth most people miss. Emotional stability doesn't just make others feel safe, it makes you feel free. Free from overthinking, free from regret, free from emotional exhaustion. When you stop riding every emotional wave, you conserve energy. That energy becomes presence. That presence becomes magnetism. Calm is contagious, peace is rare, and the person who embodies both becomes unforgettable without trying. In the next part, we'll explore another Stoic habit that silently separates the powerful from the needy, the art of detachment without coldness, the balance that makes people want you but never feel owned by you.
There is a quiet strength in knowing how to hold on without gripping, how to care without clinging, how to be present without being dependent. Let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed how the more someone tries to hold on to another person, the more fragile the connection becomes? The Stoics understood this paradox centuries ago. True connection doesn't come from attachment born of fear. It comes from freedom. And nothing is more magnetic than a person who chooses you, not because they need you, but because they want you. Detachment, as the Stoics saw it, was never about being cold or indifferent. It was about loving without surrendering your inner balance. Marcus Aurelius wrote that you should enjoy what is given, but never become enslaved to it. This applies to people, relationships, success, and even identity. When you build your happiness on something external, you place your peace in hands you cannot control. And the moment that happens, anxiety enters. Neediness follows. Attraction fades. People feel it immediately when you are attached to outcomes, when your mood depends on a message, a reaction, or approval, when your sense of worth rises and falls based on how someone treats you. That kind of attachment creates pressure, even if you never speak it aloud, and pressure suffocates connection. But when you are emotionally self-sufficient, when your world is full without constant validation, your presence becomes light, open, inviting. The Stoics believe that the strongest bond forms when two whole individuals choose to walk together, not to fill a void, but to share abundance. When you detach from outcomes, something incredible happens. You stop performing, you stop calculating, you stop chasing. You become authentic, and authenticity is magnetic because it can't be forced or faked. Ask yourself this: how do you show up when you are no longer afraid of losing someone? You speak more honestly, you listen more deeply, you love more freely, not because you're careless, but because you're secure. Detachment removes fear from the equation, and where fear disappears, connection deepens. This habit is built by grounding yourself in purpose beyond people. The Stoics placed great emphasis on having a guiding principle, virtue, discipline, service, or growth. When your identity is rooted in something internal and stable, relationships stop being the source of your worth. They become a part of your life, not the center of it. And paradoxically, the less you need someone to complete you, the more complete you appear in their eyes. Another powerful form of detachment is letting others be who they are without trying to change them. When you release the urge to control, correct, or mold someone into your expectations, your energy softens. You become safe. People relax around you. They feel accepted rather than managed.
Epictetus reminded us that we suffer not because of reality, but because of our demands that reality be different. Acceptance dissolves tension, and tension is the enemy of attraction. Detachment also teaches you how to walk away with grace, not in anger, not in bitterness, but in self-respect. When something no longer aligns with your values or peace, you don't cling, you release, quietly, calmly. This ability alone sets you apart, because most people stay where they are unhappy out of fear of loneliness. The Stoic walks away from what disrupts their inner order, trusting that peace is never found in chaos. What makes this habit so powerful is that it cannot be sensed as technique, it is felt as freedom. When people are around you, they don't feel trapped, they don't feel obligated, they don't feel tested, they feel chosen. And being chosen freely is one of the most powerful emotional experiences there is. At the deepest level, Stoic magnetism comes from alignment. Your thoughts, actions, and values move together. You are not pulled apart by desires, fears, or expectations. You are centered, grounded, whole, and wholeness attracts naturally. So ask yourself, are you trying to be magnetic, or are you becoming someone at peace with themselves? Because the person who no longer seeks attention becomes the one everyone notices. The person who no longer fears loss becomes impossible to ignore. And the person who is complete within themselves carries a presence that no words can explain, yet everyone can feel. That is the quiet power of Stoicism. Not control over others, but mastery over self. And that is where true magnetism is born.